Hello, everyone.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
That's why I'm out here.
Thank you so much for coming. It means so much to me because this is a growing project. My name is Rich Barnes, and welcome to the Jazz Initiative. Thank you so much for being here. There are a lot of people I got to thank. First, I got to thank God. I woke up this morning. It's a beautiful day. And to be able to do what I love and help students doing that, that's what I really love about this, because there are students that work with me that are getting internship credit. My man Joseph Hansen here from the television department, he was with me from the very beginning. And then Megan Williams, who has just graduated from Columbia College, she's been doing all of my ads for me, you know, based on the Blue Note covers from the 50s and 60s, so she's been doing some dynamite work. And I want to acknowledge the director of the College Advising Center, my boss, and one of my dear friends, my brother, Brian Marth, who allows me to do this, because I'm supposed to be at work right now, but I am kind of working, you know, so. And of course, the Center for Black Music Research. If you guys have never been here, you need to find some time to get in here, man, because this is an amazing place. It's the only institution of its kind in the world. They got sheet music dating back to slavery. They've got dissertations. They've got biographies, periodicals. I mean, everything about black music is here. Recordings on LPs, cassettes, DVDs, CDs, everything. So if you've never been here, take the time to come in and check this out, because it's an amazing place. So, and then I also want to thank Jacob Allen, who came in really like at the last minute to help me out, because I had a bass player, and then he had to, you know, bow out of me, but I ain't mad at him. We'll get him here another time. But thank you for doing this at the last minute, man. So this session is paying homage to all the great bassists. I love the bass. I want to study the bass. I've always wanted to study the bass. My background is in television and film, and I've worked in those industries for 20 years. But if I had not done that, I would have been a musician. There's no doubt about it. And I would have been paying to play the bass, and I probably would have been playing drums. So just to get started on this, I'm going to talk about, and I'm not going to bore you. I'm going to get through it and make it as entertaining as possible. We're going to get to the entertainment portion. But in my opinion, and a lot of other people, the man who really brought the bass out of just keeping time is Charles Mingus, the angry man of jazz, you know. But he was very temperamental. He was real serious about his music, but he was the kind of guy that would hit you in your mouth if he said he was playing a off. No, you played a B flat. No, I didn't. Boom, and he was a really big cat. Also, I mean, it's odd with him because he was a pimp at one time, and he went from that to being a revolutionary. How the hell do you go from being a pimp to a revolutionary? Well, Charles Mingus did that. But at the same time, he brought a lot to the music. Without question, when you listen to his music, you can hear the influence of Duke Ellington, because not only was he a bass player, but he was a composer. And Duke Ellington really, you know, had a great deal of influence on what he did as a composer. So he was in the hard bop, he was in the gospel music, the third stream. Now I gotta admit, I didn't know what that was, and I looked it up. The third stream is a term coined in 1957 by composer Gunther Schuller in a lecture to describe a musical genre that is the synthesis of classical music and jazz with improvisation. So he brought that to the table. Then, of course, we get to the man, my boy, Paul Chambers, who backed John Coltrane. First of all, you got to be bad as hell to keep up with John Coltrane, because he was just because he started off, of course, in bebop, and then he did a little bit of hard bop, but then, of course, he kicked him and Sonny Rollins at the same time. They got off of heroin, and they used to call each other over the phone and just play stuff back and forth over the phone. And then he got into, you know, free jazz or avant-garde, and he took that to a whole nother level. But Elvin Jones, the drummer, there were very few people that could really keep up with him, so it was always like a close-knit, you know, kind of room of people that played with him. And now the odd thing about Paul Chambers that I didn't know was he started off playing woodwinds. He was playing, let me get it together here, baritone horn, tuba, and baritone saxophone. But always, of course, being in the bottom, it was easy for him to make that transition to playing the upright bass. Then Ron Carter, who is still around to this day, you know, started off playing in the second Miles Davis quintet. He's one of my favorites because he can make the bass speak. because it's a huge instrument, and then the strings are like metal on different times, and for you to be able to press down that hard and get that, he can get that sound, and he's just absolutely amazing. Still playing, but he played with Freddie Hubbard, Lee Morgan, McCoy Tyner, Andrew Hill, Horace Silver, amazing cat. And then before him, of course, Ray Brown, who was married to Ella Fitzgerald for some years, and Art Tatum, Charlie Parker, Kenny Clark, John Lewis, Martin Jazz Quartet, one of the fathers of the bass, without question. And then my boy, Stanley Clark. True story. Our office, when we first came over to academic advising, we went to Symphony Center, and it was Bela Fleck, Jean-Luc Ponty, and Stanley Clark. Now, Stanley is famous because, he plays guitar. He plays a lot of different instruments, but he's kind of a frustrated guitarist because he always wants to hit high octaves on the bass. So he created this bass called the piccolo bass, where he extended the neck, and then also putting more sound, so he'd get those really high notes in at different times. It sounds like he's playing the guitar. But at this concert, he was playing the upright bass, and Brian can attest to this because I was sitting next to his wife at the time, and the whole time she was tripping on me because I was like, "Oh my God, oh my God!" That's all I kept saying because my mind was blown. He actually just went up and down the neck, down to the bottom. And he just said, "Well, I didn't even know I was going to do that." And it was so amazing what he was doing. And then he picked it up and was playing it like a guitar, this big, yes. So that blew my mind. And I've always been into Stanley Clark anyway. But Stanley, very innovative because, again, he can play just about any genre of jazz. And a lot of times, like I said, he'll get into some stuff that's kind of rock and based with jazz at the same time. And then finally, the baby of the group, my girl Esperanza Spalding. One, because she's a female, and she just got mad skills. I mean, she's been playing since she was a very small child, and was actually self-taught, and then went to school to learn, how to play traditionally and everything. But all of these people are bringing so much to music, and there's so many. I mean, I could talk about Jaco Pastorius. I mean, there's so many different people, but these are just some people that came to mind. And the bass is always, just like I said, a backup instrument, and I really wanted to just pay homage to those people because you wouldn't have music without them. They provide that foundation. So, are there any other bass players in the house at all? No? Okay, well, just the same, you're still good people. So, without further ado, I'm going to bring up Jacob and let him say a few words, and then maybe start to talk about, the bass as a musician, and, where he wants to go as far as his musical endeavors, and what he thinks about, the bass as jazz and other genres.
Since I was 14 years old. I'm 26 now, so handful of years, dozen years. And I wanted to play bass because my uncle's a bass player here in Chicago. He plays in like a party band, gigs around town, a working band,
Okay.
And so I saw him doing it, and he was making a living, and I have all these cousins, and he was feeding them, So I thought, hey, if I'm gonna be a musician and music is such a part of me, I should learn the bass. So I saved up for a year and a half before I had enough money to buy my first bass, mowing lawns and stuff, and I haven't put it down since. And my background's not so much in jazz, but I'm getting a lot more into jazz now, so I'm pretty new to it, and trying to learn a lot more. And you mentioned Charles Mingus. I first learned about Charles Mingus from this brass band from Richmond called No BS Brass Band, and they did a tribute album to Mingus that was all done on brass. So there's no bass, upright bass or electric bass on the album. There's tuba, but they did a cold album as a tribute to Mingus, and it's great. Is Mingus from Richmond?
You know what? I can't. I'm not certain, so
Yeah,
I don't want to say.
Yeah, I'm not certain
you're wrong.
either, but I want to say he is.
I'm
But
sure you could find out here with all of that.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's the perfect place. And then you also mentioned Esperanza Spalding. She's great. She's contemporary right now, doing awesome stuff. I first learned about her because I was listening to this jazz station all the time in North Carolina, where I was living in Durham, and they said, "Hey, there's a Esperanza Spalding concert. Third caller gets free tickets." And I called into the radio station, and I got free tickets to see her. So I saw her at the Carolina Theater in Durham, North Carolina, and that was life-changing.
Wow.
So not long after that, I went out and found a shop where I could rent an upright, because I had never played upright before. And so now I'm trying to learn a little bit of that.
Want to project your voice?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll speak up. So she's awesome.
So can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Okay, being an electric bass player, what are the challenges you see going from the electric bass and then trying to play the upright double bass?
That's a good question. The challenges are like, there's so much that I know how to do on bass, and I go to try to do it on upright, and everything's spread farther apart,
Okay.
and there's no frets, and
Right.
so I'll just like completely do it wrong.
Okay.
Even though I know what it should sound like. So like the main issues are just like learning the note positions so that there's no intonation issues.
So is it like space and time as far as, you hitting the right notes and everything?
It's mostly I mean, my rhythm's there, but just getting the stretches and the
Okay.
fingers and getting it so it's in tune, because I'm used to relying on frets, and I can't rely on that.
Okay.
First thing I did when I got my upright was I took a pencil and marked the hand positions on the fretboard so that I could kind of get used to that, and then as I kept playing scales to try to learn those hand positions, I didn't need them as much.
Okay.
So.
All right, another question. I'm sorry. Who are your influences as far as the bass?
Some of my biggest influences, Jaco Pastorius. My uncle gave me his self-titled album when I was pretty young, so I grew up listening to that. James Jamerson, the Motown bass player.
Yes, yes.
You can't have a conversation about bass without mentioning
Yeah.
James Jamerson. He's done so much for bass. And
Can I just tell a story really quick?
Go for it.
There's a famous solo that he did. Now it's escaping me because I think it was on a Marvin Gaye. It was a Marvin Gaye tune,
Okay.
and James was out drinking all night because at that point he was an alcoholic, and they went and found him in some bar because they were doing a session, and James was so drunk that they just laid him on the floor. And he played that whole song on his back. No, I'm not kidding. And I wish I could remember the tune that it was, because I think it was on "Gotta Give It Up" but the bass line is so kicking, and there are people that can't play it when they're standing straight up. But he was drunk and he just laid down and just played this thing, man. Okay, so I'm sorry, I won't.
Yeah. That's a good story. Yeah. James Jamerson is awesome, and he started on upright, and then just revolutionized the electric bass as much as Jaco revolutionized electric bass.
Does anybody know who the Funk Brothers are? So James started off playing in jazz. Matter of fact, he played with Count Basie for a minute. I cannot think of this guy's name, but anyhow, big band is what he started out doing. Then he went into bebop and then hard bop. Then he got with Motown. Motown had a group of studio musicians that were called the Funk Brothers, and they played on all of their records. So a lot of the famous things like different solos and whatnot that you hear come from the Funk Brothers, and he was one of the people that was one of the originals with that band.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I'm keep breaking in.
Oh,
breaking
it's
your
good. It's good.
concentration.
Trying to think of what's interesting to talk about.
Okay, well I got one question for
Yeah.
you. if you could play with anyone, living or dead, and like put your own band together,
Ooh, okay.
who would those people be? Let's say that it's a 5-piece band,
5-piece band.
and I'll give you a horn section on the side.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So there's a drummer from Richmond named Corey Fonville. He plays with this group called Butcher Brown. They're a cool like studio band for this little startup record label called Jellystone Studios. Corey also tours with Christian Scott.
Okay.
He's Christian Scott's drummer. So he'd be my drummer. I got a really good friend Eric Lopez who plays guitar, and I sometimes get angry with guitar players because I think they play too much.
Okay.
But Eric just keeps it tasty all the time, and so I have the pleasure to play with him, and I don't think I could transition to another guitar player because I rely too much on him.
Okay.
So, who else? You mentioned horns.
Who's on keys?
Who's
Before
on
you get
keys?
before you get to the horns, who's on?
My man Virgil here.
You better shoot higher than that.
All right.
you got anybody you want. You better
Well,
you better
that's the
take
wonderful
Monk or
thing about
something.
being here at Columbia is we're meeting so many musicians that are wonderfully talented, and we have great opportunity to form groups. I don't have to just dream about making music. I have the people here to make music with.
See that
you know?
again. See,
I'm not.
networking.
I'm not a dreamer. I'm a doer. And
There you
so-
go. There you go.
Okay.
So yeah. Who else? Horn. You mentioned horn section.
Okay.
Reggie Pace. He's a trombone player from the No BS brass band that I mentioned, who did the tribute album to Charles Mingus.
Okay.
I'm a big trombone fan,
Okay.
and it's the best horn of all the horns. I should think of a sax player to throw in there.
James Carter.
Yeah.
Oldest saxophone
That'd be
player.
cool. James Carter's cool. Yeah. Who am I missing? Albert, you want to play percussion for my dream band?
Everybody.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of great, talented players out there who I'd love to put these, like, super groups together with. But, you know, I got so many people around me who are
Okay.
really great players who are teaching me a lot. And so
Okay.
if people are pouring into my life, teaching me, I can't complain, you know? They're showing me so much that they got to keep showing it to me because I rely on it as a musician. I can do so much research and practice on my own,
Mhm.
but having others around you who also are, you know, have their own influences and are learning things, they can teach you more and faster than you can teach yourself sometimes. And so I think that's really important.
So, you compose some of your own stuff.
I do, yeah.
So, as a composer, what is your creative process? How do you get started? What makes your creative juices get going?
I write a lot of tunes walking around or riding the train, or less of it is sitting down and writing. More of it's like something pops in your head and you go with it, and maybe it's a couple words that have a cool rhythm, because you know, speech and words and language have rhythm, and that's what provides the rhythm for your melodies, I think. Even if you're playing the bass or a horn line, it's like there's speech patterns that were kind of inspired by and replicating by playing the horn. Playing music is a conversation, even if there are no lyrics. So a lot of my initial compositions, the simple form of it is like a melody that I think of walking around and just hearing the sounds of the city or wherever I am. Maybe the rhythm of my pace as I'm walking. All these things are influences on what the song's going to sound like, and then from there I take it and I think about what it's gonna look like to put it with an ensemble or a band. Which most of the time I'm kind of thinking along the lines of simple rhythm section. I love adding percussion in there, along with the back line, and then a horn or two for some melodies. And we're golden.
So when you're going for the music first, or sometimes are you inspired to write lyrics first and then put the music in, or or is it just as it comes?
It's as it comes. I do a little bit of both either way. It's really hard for me to put lyrics to something that I've already written music for.
Okay.
So if I am trying to write a tune that has lyrics, I'll often just write the words, and a lot of times as I'm writing the words, I have a melody in mind, and like I said, the words themselves provide the rhythm for that melody. So, yeah.
Do you play any other instruments other than the bass?
I play guitar quite a bit. The bass is my focus, and I play guitar like I'm a bass player.
Okay. Can you explain that?
It's like I play a rhythmic style. I am kind of uncomfortable just soloing over the top of things. I like to just get that groove going, whether it's on bass or guitar.
Okay. So how many, because I know a lot of people have several instruments. I had a buddy that played guitar, and he had like 22 guitars. How many?
I have my red bass here that's hiding right now. It's a 4-string jazz bass.
Okay.
I have a 5-string that my uncle is letting me borrow. It's an Ed Reynolds bass. Anyone know who Ed Reynolds is? Chicago. He was a Chicago luthier in the 80s. So I talked to Chuck Webb, and he was like, "Oh, I had a Ed bass back in the day." There's not a whole lot of people who know Ed Reynolds anymore. He moved to El Paso, Texas, and started doing it there. But you still see a couple of his basses around Chicago, and it's like a special Chicago thing when you see an Ed Reynolds bass.
Wow.
It's pretty cool.
See, that's the great thing about this, because and that's why music is so great, because you're never going to live long enough to know everything. Because
Right.
I'd never heard of Ed Reynolds.
Yeah.
So I'm learning something.
A lot of the old guys, working musicians playing around the city now, had work done by Ed on their basses, or had an Ed Reynolds bass. He was like the go-to guy for all the Chicago bass players for a long time. And then I have a U bass. It's a little tiny baritone ukulele strung with these polyurethane strings to have the same. It sounds like an upright, but it's this little tiny bass.
Huh.
And so that one's nice because it's really lightweight, and I can get around easy with it. And it's such a small scale that I can do these crazy licks that I can't reach, can't stretch my hand like that on a normal bass.
Okay.
So those are my 3 right now. I'd like to get a precision bass again someday, to get that Motown sound.
Okay. So have you ever played like an electric fretless bass?
I've had the opportunity to mess around on one, but I haven't really been able to devote time to learning a electric fretless bass. But they're pretty cool. You get that, Pino and Jocko fretless players, and it's a cool sound.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So can you talk about I guess the difference between a 4-string and then a 5-string? Because I've even seen some 6-string basses,
Mm-hmm.
which.
So the 5-string, a 5-string bass adds an extra low string underneath so a 4-string is strung E, A, D, G, and then the 5-string will have a B underneath the E string. And then a 6-string, like you mentioned, will have a high C string.
Okay.
So they're all tuned to fourths, which makes some pretty cool geometric patterns when you start thinking about chord shapes and stuff.
Wow.
I'm pretty new to playing a 5-string as well now that I got this bass that my uncle's letting me borrow. And so there's a little bit of transition period where I'm just hitting the wrong string. But yeah, I'm getting past that now.
All right.
So, can I play a little bit?
Yeah, please.
I'm gonna do
Please.
one thing on bass by myself, and then I'm gonna call some friends up here. You ever hear a solo bass play by himself before?
Actually, I have.
It's pretty. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna play my favorite things from the musical Sound of Music. But my own rendition of it. Coltrane put it in 6/8, but I put it in 4. It's written in 3, so I kind of turned it into a funk groove. I'm not used to talking over myself playing. It's kind of fun. Mostly noodling. Yeah, my mom's favorite musical is Sound of Music, so I heard that musical so many times growing up. It's just like tough to get those songs out of my head. We want to play some songs, Virgil? So this is my buddy Virgil and Amani and Sloan. These are Virgil's own compositions, and I get the pleasure of playing bass.
Yeah.
Sitting on electric wire, up there's where I spotted you, swinging your feet side to side. She's the one divine, not to mention define, naming the world as it rides. Heaven through a sparrow's eyes, the brambles rejoice in the statue of Joan of Arc's smile. Why can't this be right? Batter with the table in. She's at the plate. Fried is softly just slide of mine. Nimble, nimble on the 88s, so many gates her stride. You taste the flavor of a ride. There's a racing horse, muscadine, peeking out, I'm blind to play this underneath the lights. I said, why can't this be right? This is the real life, baby. This is the real life, my child. This is the real life, my baby. This is real life, my child. This is the real life, baby. This is real life, my child. This is the real life, baby. This is the real life, my child. This is the real life, child. This is the This is the real life, I'm gonna do one called Donald Duck is the name of this song. Take a letter, there's something I want to say. I said my throat is parched and I need just a little taste. And feast me a sandwich, I'm famished down to road to bang. Won't you help me out? Say, all I got to give is some